Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Pu. I'm the founder of the Taraxa project, and welcome to our AMA. So, yeah, well, let's get into an update. Okay. Well, today, as usual, we're going to have 3 parts. We're going to update you on the progress of the project, and then we're going to do a deep dive on the ECHO project, which I think everyone has a lot of questions about. And then we're going to get into the Q&A portion. Okay, so a quick progress update. In terms of our staking, I think we're doing extremely well. Since the last AMA, we've increased our total staking by 34 million. And more importantly, we've increased our total delegation by 58 million. So this is great. So that means that our overall delegation rate is going up. So thank you everyone who has participated in staking as well as delegation to help secure the Taraxa network. So this is really great. Thank you everyone. In terms of the network has been running pretty stably. I think there was one bug. There was a bug probably on the mainnet, and there was a small bug on the testnet. But overall, I think everything has been running pretty stably. We haven't had any crazy crashes. So this has been going well. In terms of our development, overall towards the native token conversion, we're 67% there. And all of the stability elements the stability features that we wanted to get into the layer 1 have been finished. So that's really great. We are now, the next step is really a focus onto the security as well as the economics. So the economics features are almost all completed. We have also signed with a security audit firm named Halborn. So they're the ones who did security audits for people like Avalanche. And they're a very reputable firm. And we're going to start the security audit with them on June 1st. So right now we're ramping up our team and their team, how we can work together smoothly. So the progression is that once we finish the security audit, we'll submit the report to the exchanges that the foundation has contractual relationships with, which is KuCoin, Gate, and Sendex. And they'll tell us how long it'll take for them to integrate our conversion into their exchange. So we'll keep everyone updated on the timelines, how long the security audit is going to change, how long the security audit is going to take, as well as how long the entire conversion process is going to take. And there will be many tests prior to the actual conversion. So we will be mirroring the ERC20 onto our test network many times so that everyone can check it out and test their wallets to make sure things work out the way they should be. We're going to have tutorials on how to access your funds on the Taraxa network during these tests. So everyone will have plenty of opportunities to test it out prior to the actual conversion. Okay. The next one is, of course, the social listening app. So we've mostly been making progress on the data layer, as the data collection layer, as well as the analytics layer. So on the data collection layer, things are going a little bit slowly than usual, than expected, because we've had the progress at 99% for several weeks. What we've seen is that we are getting, Telegram is kicking our bots off their platform, but we have many ways to actually solve this problem. And the ultimate way to solve it is to actually finish a fully decentralized architecture, which is the direction that we're going, right? So the original plan was to actually build up the data collection network in a way that's pretty centralized and then slowly decentralize it as we go on. Anyway, it seems right now that the decentralized architecture is actually the way to go, because if it's too centralized, these platforms tend to kick you out. So yeah, so we are moving towards a more decentralized architecture, and that's good, because obviously this architecture needs to be decentralized anyway. So we'll keep everyone updated on our progress there as well. Once we do make some breakthroughs on how to defeat the kicking us off kind of a problem. It is solvable for sure. It's not like we don't know what to do. We have like 20 different things that we haven't tried yet, and one of them is bound to work, or many of them is bound to work. On the analytics side, we have been using Telegram data to test our analytics, and this is going to be actually the focus of this update. So we'll get to a lot more details on that later on. Okay. All right. So another reminder to please delegate. Now, first, we need to celebrate the fact that I think the last time we had an AMA, the amount of delegation divided by the amount of staking, basically delegation, ratio was, undelegated ratio was around 13%, 13.5% or something. So that has dropped, to 7.45%. So it dropped over 6%. So once again, thank you to everyone who has staked and delegated, but there's still 7.45% of stakers who have not delegated. Please delegate, or else you won't be receiving any yields. This QR code here, if you scan it, it'll take you to the step-by-step guide. Okay. And we'll have all these links at the end of the video description on our YouTube channel as well. So. Okay, so the focus of this thing, of this AMA, I want the update, right? I really want everyone to get a sense of what it is that we're building on the Echo platform. So as a quick reminder, right, to people who might be new to the project, or might be new and first time they heard about Echo. So Taraxa has several layers of our tech stack, right? So at the bottom is layer 1. And then the second layer is really a platform layer, right? So the platform layer enables different types of use cases. Like we talked about Echo, which is social listening, Marinate, which for informal business transactions, and Helio for machine generated data, right? So on top of Echo, right, we're going to be building different types of applications that make use of social data. So one is Hype, which is a way for projects to really maximize the way that their marketing campaigns are building their communities, right? Do it in a way that's very effective, right? And it doesn't lead to excessive spam, and it doesn't lead to a waste of your resources. And things like trend spotting, right? Basically being able to identify trends before they become big, right? Identify emerging trends that are being talked about in social, right? So these are some of the things that we hope we can enable, and they're very, very useful applications. So this is really our tech stack, and that's what really Echo is about. Okay, so today, of course, we're going to deep dive into Echo. We're going to talk about the data layer, and specifically, we're going to talk a lot about the analytics layer, because we've been getting a lot of questions about that from the community. Okay, so a quick reminder. So we have inside Echo, we have the data collection layer, right, which collects publicly available social data in a decentralized manner, right? So that's exactly what we're doing right now, and we're starting with Telegram data. The second one is analytics. It takes that data that has been collected in a decentralized way, and it conducts that analysis, right? Converts them into quantifiable signals, right? So these signals are things that applications can make use of to solve various problems, to address various pain points. And the third layer is, of course, the application layer. So things like Hype, things like TrendSpotter. These are the applications that are going to use the signals to solve specific problems. Okay. So what are we doing right now with the data layer as well as the analytics layer, right? So on the data layer right now, we have a architecture that's right now sitting I think 2,800 Telegram groups around there, and it's collecting all the data periodically. So it's very, very stable. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the issue is that if we try to scale that up, we start getting the new bots, right, start getting banned. So what we're doing right now is we're going towards a decentralized architecture. I guess earlier than we thought we would, but it's something that we're going to do anyway, right? Because it's the right thing to do. Our short-term goal, sort of minimum goal that we want to hit, is around 8,700 Telegram groups, because those are the groups that we could find that are crypto related. And of course, later on, I'm sure the community will tell us, hey, guess what? There are a lot more than just 87 Telegram groups to talk about crypto. Great, submit them to us. But that's the minimum goal that we actually want to hit. So we're not there yet, but we're very, very confident we can get there. So this is not like if we get there kind of thing. We will get there, and we will figure it out, right? And the second part is the analytics layer. So the analytics layer is all about taking what we find inside Telegram, right? Taking these discussions that we're seeing in Telegram, and then trying to figure out how we can analyze and quantify them, right? So there are 3 areas that we're specifically looking for right now, and they're all related to the Hype project, right? The Hype application. So the goal of the Hype application is really to figure out how you can set up marketing campaigns that rewards the type of behaviors you would like to see in social media, right? So the things that you definitely want to see are things that are, constructive to building your community. It spreads the right messages. It's not spammy. People are talking about it in the right context, and most importantly, it actually creates a lasting impact in the communities in which your project or your ad campaign is being talked about. Other people start talking about it. New people start joining the conversation. So that's really what it means to have an effective marketing campaign, at least in crypto. So there's 3 areas that we're really looking at, right? I think I mentioned some of those. One type of measurement or quantification is relevance, right? The other one is quality, and the third one is impact. So right now we're mostly focused on relevance, which basically means is this message that someone said, is that relevant at all to your project, or is it relevant at all to your ad campaign, right? So that's basically the most basic filtering kind of quantifiable signal. Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit. This slide looks kind of complex, but you don't need to focus on the complexity. We can go through this at a high level so that everyone understands what it is that we're looking at, right? So what this slide is really sort of, how are we using Echo's analytics specifically for the Hype application, right? So first of all, just reiterate, what is Hype? What is the Hype application? The Hype application at a high level is really sort of, how do you hype up your project that maximizes, community building impact? That's really what you want as a crypto project. You want to actually build up a community of fans around your project in a way that's sustainable. And basically it means that your project's being talked about and discussed quite frequently, continuously in social media, right? So that's really what that's about. Now, what are the pain points today, right, for Hype? Well, if you're trying to promote your project today, there's a good chance that you're wasting 99% of your spending, and you're getting a minimal amount of impact, right, in social media. And the reason why that happens is that you can't really in real time differentiate things like, is it spam? Is this person who's talking about it relevant? What we see happening with marketing bounties, right, social bounties, is that it's the same thing that happens in a lot of other crypto ecosystems where you actually pay people to do things, is that it all gets consumed by people like bounty hunters. And these bounty hunters, it's literally their job, right, to actually go out and consume social bounties. They don't care about crypto. They don't care about anything really. All they care about is earning money, right? That's their job. It's the same thing that happened, I think, with something like Axie Infinity, in which all their players are basically people from the Philippines who do this for a living. They don't care about the game. The game is not fun. And as soon as the price stops, everyone stops playing the game, because the game itself is actually not fun. So this is the same thing that's happening in marketing for crypto, right? So if you start doing these marketing campaigns, it all gets consumed by people who are probably not going to be a future community member, and they're not going to influence or impact anybody who potentially could be a future community member. So all your money is basically sort of going down the drain, right? And you're not really getting anything out of it. So that's a really bad problem to have when you're trying to promote your project, trying to raise awareness for your project, right? Okay, so so these are three different types of analytic quantifiable metrics, and of course under there we have lots of sub metrics that we're looking at. Broadly speaking, we're looking at three categories, right? Relevance, quality, and impact, right? So relevance just means are they actually, if I'm looking at a specific message or a group of messages, and I'm trying to figure out, should I pay for these, or are these valid for payment, or should I reward this type of behavior, right? So relevance is a category, it's sort of like a filtering category, which says, are they even talking about your project at all, right? Is this even relevant to your project? And what are they saying about your project, right? So that's really what relevance is. The second category we look at is quality. Quality just says that, are the discussions meaningful, right? Or is it just spam? People spamming the same thing over and over again at really high frequency, right? You don't want that. Maybe a little bit of spam is good, but too much is not great, right? Because then people will have a negative, attach a negative sentiment towards your project and say like, why is this project spamming everywhere? People will not like that, right? It's definitely not the way to actually build a community. And the third one, which is the most important one, is impact, right? So basically, did they actually trigger any kind of response or any kind of discussion inside the social media platforms that they're posting on, right? So that's really important, and this is really the final goal I think that you want. I think the quality factor is sort of an intermediate, kind of an intermediary goal, but the impact is really what you want, right? So this actually brings discussion, generates discussion inside the right, inside the right groups, inside the right social platform that you want, and it brings potentially new members into your community because people are talking about it, right? Okay, so we can dig a little bit deeper into these different categories. So inside relevance, we have first we have a section I call baseline admittance, which means, does this actually even make it, right? Like, are you even talking about my project? Is this even relevant? And this basic relevance is actually interesting. We consider this across many, many dimensions, right? So first one, the person who's posting it, right? Has he been posting, for example, crypto, if you're hyping a crypto project, has he been posting crypto related content in the past? Right? Because we can see what he has posted in the past on these publicly available groups, right? Has he been posting crypto related stuff in the past? If this is a guy who's been posting, say, like, cats for like 5 years in a row, and he's posting about crypto now on your behalf, then his posts are not going to be very relevant because he's not a person who's known to talk about crypto, right? He's not going to influence anybody, right? Similarly, the group that this person is posting, the poster, is it even a crypto group, for example, right? I mean, it could be a non-crypto group, it could be a cats group, right, where people talk about cats. So also, if it's a group where the subject matter that's being discussed is not relevant to your project or your project's industry vertical, then that's also not too relevant, right? And the third one is, of course, what is the content of the message, right? The explicitly stated content of the message. This, if the message says something like, if you're hyping up Taraxa, the message says something about Taraxa, okay, well, then we know it has something to do with Taraxa, right? So it's explicitly stated, it's related to your project. And the fourth one is contextual. Is it contextually related to what you're saying? Because in things like Telegram, in other, Discord, and these other social media projects, you might be talking about something, but you might not mention the project, right? So for someone said, oh, Taraxa just released their testnet. Oh yeah, I heard about that, it was great. Well, that second sentence, I heard about it, it was great, is also talking about Taraxa, but it doesn't have the word Taraxa inside, right? So contextually, you need to figure out, well, this is also talking about Taraxa, so it also counts, right, in some way or another. Okay. All right, so this is baseline admittance, basically saying, is this message does it even make it, right, into our consideration for reward, right? Is it at all related to your project, to your ad campaign, to even your industry vertical, right? And this is very important because obviously the vast majority of messages in social media, any platform, are not related to what to what you're trying to do, right? So you need to filter those out. The second one is campaign differentiation, right? So different stages of the project, you might want to market different things, right? So maybe today, this month you're talking about your testnet 1.0, the next month you're talking about an alpha mainnet, the third month maybe you're talking about a DApp, partnership, things like that, right? So what you want to do is you're saying, okay, we have all these messages that are now, we're pretty sure are related to your project, right? They're being talked about in the right context, right? The right groups, posted by the right people. Okay, so which of your campaigns are they most closely related to, right? So because you might have variable rewards for different campaigns, you might have some recency requirements in which you're saying, whatever it's the newest campaign gets more rewards. You can have all these variables. So you want to know, like, which campaign is it related to, and this also goes to another core, I think, philosophical concept that we have for hype and also for marketing in general, is that we think marketing shouldn't happen in fits and starts, right? So it shouldn't be like, I want to do marketing today and then nothing for a month, and then I'll do the marketing like, the next month and then nothing, right? So marketing and community building should be, or hyping in general, should be continuous, right? It should just happen all the time, every second, every single day, right? So it should be a continuous kind of a stream that rewards positive behavior, right? So so what that means is that, well, then that's fine, you have a continuous stream, but how then do you differentiate between your different emphasis, right? Having a continuous stream of hype or marketing doesn't mean that you don't have different emphasis across time. So this campaign differentiation actually helps you to figure out, which campaign specifically it's most closely related to, right? Okay, so that's what relevance is about, right? The next one is about quality, right? So quality is about how, is it just spam? Is this just complete BS that someone posting? Or is it something that's higher quality, right? So the first one we want to look at is crowdedness. Are these messages being posted at a very, very high frequency, right? So and frequency is very relative, right? Inside a group, across different groups, it's also very relative because certain groups are very talkative, right? If you have a group with 100,000 people and 10,000 people online and they're all talking, then things scroll up very, very quickly. For example, on your phone, on your computer. So if you're posting at a relatively higher frequency in those groups, it might be okay, right? Because as soon as you post something, it gets scrolled up within like 10 seconds or 5 seconds. So you might need to post it a few times in order for that to work. So we take that into account, for example. But if you're in a smaller group, with like 20 people online, no one's really talking, and then you just post the same thing, 5 times, then that's spam, right? That's not really helping anybody. Like I said, it probably hurts your project, right? So the next thing that we want to look at is really sameness, right? So are the posts highly similar, right? Are they highly similar? Means, are people just copying and pasting these things, right? So there's definitely going to be a very steep drop off or reward decay when it comes to things that happen very frequently and are exactly the same, right? Because that's basically the definition of spam, right? So we don't want to reward spam. Like I said, a little bit of spam might be good, but a lot of spam is invariably bad for everybody, right? It's probably not great. Okay. The third one is impact, right? So impact, what you have is you have visibility and you have interactivity. So this is really the very important, probably the end goal that you want to get to really help your project gain more followers, gain more community members by instigating more discussions about your project, right? So visibility, right? How many people even saw it, right? I think in traditional SEO, people talk about impressions, right? How many people saw this? You can gauge that just by seeing how many people are online. I think in certain points, things like Telegram also tell you how many people actually, like, literally saw this message. So we can actually get those signals and figure out how many people have seen, how well seen is it, how visible are these messages. The more visible it is, obviously, the better it is, right? The next one is interactivity. Now, this one is really, really important, is that did this instigate any further follow-on discussions, right? So you can imagine someone talking about, for example, hey, Taraxa has a testnet launch inside the group. The other people start talking about this topic with you, right? Did they say explicitly at you, right? Reply to you, say, hey, I'm interested in this, or I heard about this, or blah, blah, blah. And, or they have, sort of contextual discussions in which they didn't specifically reply to you, but, they're talking about something that, in close proximity from a temporal perspective to what you're saying, and it's so related to Taraxa, right? So these are the things that you want to see, right? You want to see your ad campaigns, you want to see your hype campaigns really generate discussions in social networks, right? This is the holy grail. The more of this you see, that means the more interested the community is in what you're doing, and potentially the more community members that you can get, right? Okay, so so notice another thing that's missing here is really sentiment, right? So the person that's talking about you, are they saying positive things about you, or is saying negative things about you, right? So we leave that up to the project to really, sentiment is very easy to detect from a natural language processing perspective. We don't necessarily take a view like only reward positive sentiment. Sometimes talk is good, right? If you're famous, you're famous. Even if you're a little bit infamous, that might also be good. So it depends on what different projects think and want. We're going to leave it up to them to whether or not they only want to reward positively sentimented messages, or they don't care, right? More talk is great. So that could also be the case. So all of this is really done through a combination of just basic search to natural language processing technologies that we're using. So NLP is really a type of AI algorithm that has been trained. These models that have been trained to have some basic understanding of what humans are saying, right? So so that's very exciting. It's a very interesting field of technology that we're leveraging here. So these are the things that we're working on. So as I was talking about before, right now we're mostly working on the relevance section, right? We're working on things in which we talk about, is this message even related to your project, or is the poster even related to, is the poster or the group that they're posting even relevant to your project, right? And also campaign differentiation. So these are the two that we're working on right now. We made quite a bit of progress on it, so we can actually show some of our early progress once we're pretty confident that they work. We need to test different data sets across different time frames to gain a high level of confidence that these algorithms are actually working. So we can do like a quick demo later. All right. Okay, now it's time for Q&A. First, I think I'm going to go to Twitter. Because I think a lot of people have already posted. Let me just refresh this page. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see the web browser. Okay, so all right, so we're just gonna go down this one by one. All right, so first one, what are the reasons for the Luna issue not happen for Taraxa in the future? For those who don't know, what kind of security does Taraxa provide to its investors about the issue? Coin supply and fairness. Okay, so, well, first of all, Luna and Taraxa are not even close to being alike, right? One is the stable coin, and they didn't build their layer one. They basically wanted to build stable coin, right? And it's an algorithmic stable coin. Taraxa is the layer one, and we're trying to make informal data trusted. I don't think there's anything remotely alike about the two. I mean, I can go into depth for why Luna crashed, but I'm sure everyone has found tons of data. There's been tons of articles and postings online about it recently, so I'm sure you guys can find it on your own. But it's an algorithmic stable coin, so nothing that's going to happen in Luna is going to happen to Taraxa, right? For example, the fact that there's an algorithmic tying between UST and Luna, which means that as soon as UST becomes depegged, it puts a downward pricing pressure on Luna because it gets redeemed for Luna and Luna gets sold, right? It also has this anchor protocol, and on top of which is abracadabra leveraging protocol, which makes the whole 20% yield completely unsustainable. It doesn't make sense. I mean, not to dance on anyone's corpse here, but that anchor protocol's 20% yield was never going to be sustainable because it exceeded its income, right? So when you're paying out more money than you're taking in, it's just not going to work out, right? And it's also really the problem that they have is not really caused by security either. I mean, Luna and UST, they weren't hacked at all. I mean, everything worked as they're supposed to, exactly as they're supposed to. Nothing like, sort of bad happened. I know there's a lot of rumors online saying that there are some malicious trades by large financial institutions. As far as I'm concerned, those trades are legitimate, right? It's an open market, and anyone can do any trade they want, right? So the fact that if someone did actually successfully trade against that mechanism, which is unsustainable when it was even designed, great for them. They're smart enough to figure it out and have enough money and competent enough to execute it. So it's an open market, free market, right? So nothing wrong with that. And so it's not really due to a security problem that they failed. It's just that it wasn't really designed. It wasn't really designed to be sustainable to begin with. So Taraxa is, once again, nothing like that. We don't have any we're not building a stable coin, all right? We're not interested in building stable coins. There are lots of great stable coins already out there, right? We're doing security audits, right? For security problems. I mean, we have one of the most reputable auditors, and our team is working very hard to make sure that we work well with the auditor to get rid of all the security problems. We've been testing our testnet for a really long time, so I don't really think we're going to have a problem with that. In terms of coin supply, which is also part of the question, a lot of people have asked about the inflation that's actually in Taraxa. So once again, the type of cascading inflation that you see between Luna and UST is not going to happen in Taraxa because it's not built that way, right? So like I said, there's a cascading impact in which if UST continuously becomes depegged due to market panic, it gets converted into Luna, which gets sold and causes more panic, and it's just a vicious cycle, right? So that's why Luna, as long as UST is depegged, Luna will keep on going down until it goes down to zero, right? I think that's really what happened to it. That's not going to happen to Taraxa because it's not built that way, right? The current amount of inflation, overall inflation, is extremely low. I think the amount of inflated coins as a percent of overall market circulation is only 0.19%. So it's like less than 0.2%. So it's not really that much. As the amount of staking and delegation goes up, we can put it to a community vote to whether or not we should lower the yield or change the yield to a different yield curve. Obviously, inflation destroys ecosystems, so we're watching this very, very closely. But right now, given the amount of people that are staking and delegating, it just seems to be white noise as far as I'm concerned in terms of how much inflation is generating. Now, the point of the whole ecosystem thing is really to figure out how you can make it sustainable, right? So as we've seen in a lot of DeFi protocols in the past, and Luna is probably one of the more famous ones, is that do you have enough demand, right? Do you have enough demand and usage and utility of your actual project for it to sustain inflation? The problem is not really inflation. The problem is do you have deflation to counteract that inflation? And deflation comes from usage, right? So so that's something that we're very, we're a lot. I think I've seen a lot of questions later on about marketing. We're very focused on product, right? So we need to build products that people will use. If we're not building products people will use, then we need to change it, right? Change something, change your product, adjust our product, optimize it or something to make sure that people actually use it. It's solving a problem, right? So the same reason that Luna failed is probably very similar to the problems that Axie is running into as well, right? So, Luna's going down because it's paying out way more than it's taking in, right? So it's not really being used, right? Its primary use case is Anchor, which is a protocol that does lending, which means, not many people are borrowing UST, not enough people are borrowing UST to generate enough interest payments in order to pay out the 20% APR, right? So basically they're paying out more than they're taking in. So it's not being used enough, right? The usage is not there. The demand is not there. Similarly to something like Axie, in which, this whole play to earn thing, it sounds a little strange. I mean, you will want to play a game because it's fun, right? I guess it makes sense if you play it to earn money, but then the people that are playing it are going to look at it as a job, right? So as soon as their price goes down to a certain point, or they modify the mechanics or the reward mechanism in some way, people stop playing because it's not fun, right? It's, if it's not fun to play, then why should people play it, right? So the vast majority, overwhelming majority of people who are playing Axie turn out to be, like basically like bounty hunters, right? Like I mentioned before, they do this for an income, not for fun. I mean, this is very different, right? If you look at a game like World of Warcraft, yeah, there were a lot of gold farmers when people were playing it, but the vast majority of people play World of Warcraft not because they want to farm gold, because it was fun, right? So that's why that's a sustainable sort of an ecosystem, where actually might not be so sustainable because people, as soon as the economics are turned off or it becomes unattractive, not turn off, but become unattractive, people stop playing it. It was not fun to play. So, in both these examples, you see that there's not enough demand for the product. The product itself doesn't really attract anyone. So it's all about, so once again, we're very focused on building a product that solves a specific problem, solves actual real pain points, so people will use it, right? And that's really fundamental, I think. During the crypto boom, the bull market, I think most people probably lose sight of that, right? And if you start giving out crazy yields, people will just flock in and they don't really think about, why they're giving out these yields or if it's sustainable. And of course, all these things, right, that are unsustainable, they'll eventually unravel, right? They'll eventually unravel. Once again, not going to happen to Taraxa because we are focused on utility, we're focused on demand, we're focused on building something that's useful from day one. Right? Okay, so kind of a long answer to your short question, but a great question, right? I think this is something a lot of people are thinking about. Okay, so I can't comment on price on that second one. What does the team plan to do to promote the project? When will your marketing and partnership for the Taraxa project be announced? Yeah, so we look at marketing as product marketing, right? We don't market dreams that don't exist. Okay, so we market things that are very solid. So our entire marketing campaign is going to revolve around us onboarding projects that are going to use, for example, the Hype app. All right, so that's our focus right now. Echo and Hype, those are our focus right now, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to go out, we're going to talk to projects, we're going to talk to VCs, we're going to talk to influencers, we're going to talk to every single channel that we have, and we're going to pitch them the product, right? So this is a product, these are the metrics that we're getting. We can prove that quantifiably this is far superior than what people are using right now. And do you have, if you're a project, would you like to use it, right? If you're someone who's not a project, can you introduce us to more projects, right? So we've gotten a lot of interest. So we did a lot of market studies prior to actually committing ourselves to this to this specific product, this line of thinking, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So this is a pain point that's shared by a lot of people. It's just a matter of like, did we build the right product, or is our product fine-tuned enough to actually address these pain points? And I think we're off to a very good start. It's not going to be a grand slam right out of the room, obviously, because you know, no one gets it perfect the first try. We're going to talk to a lot of projects, and get them to use our product and iterate on our product, right? So once we have a lot of projects already using our product, that's the time when we actually start marketing. And when we start marketing this, it will be very natural, right? There's not going to be any fake partnerships, right? Like, you know, BS announcements about whatever. We're going to have real users on our project, on our platform, with projects as well as people that are helping to hype these projects, right? So so there's going to be lots of users on both sides, okay? And if we do it right, it's going to be a virtuous cycle. That number is just going to keep on growing. More projects going to come in. There's going to be more sort of hype campaigns, hype pools that are being deployed on the platform, and more people are going to join to talk about these projects, to learn about these projects, and that's going to create a really a positive cycle of that we would like to see, right? It's going to filter out the noise because those guys are not getting rewarded. It's going to reward positive contributions and discussions, not positive sentiment, but positive contribution to a community where people are actually learning about the project and talking about it, right, and discussing it, right? So that's what we're going to market, right? That's when we actually come out with the mass marketing. We're going to talk to a lot of different channels, and we're going to market our achievements, and we're going to keep marketing our progress, right? That's how you do it in a sustainable way. And then later on, we're going to put up economics into these platforms that act as a sink or deflationary sink, right, to the to counter the inflationary yields that we're seeing in the staking right now, right? And so the higher that we can actually get the deflationary sink up, it could potentially quickly exceed the inflationary forces and make the whole ecosystem somewhat deflationary. But anyway, so you know, this is what you do, right? You build a product, you iterate on it, right? You get lots of people to use it, and then you market the heck out of this usage, right? That's what you want. You want to market on something that's real, that's being used, and then you put economics on top of it to actually encourage a deflationary sink, right? And so this is how you build a sustainable product. This is how you build a sustainable ecosystem, right? That's the way to do it. It's not magic. It's not rocket science. It's just the right way to do it. All right. Do you have any plans on using and upgrading current Twitter algorithms for Echo, or will they be developed from scratch? Well, I mean, we don't know if Twitter algorithms are open source. I think Elon Musk said that he's going to open source them, so we're not really sure. We're not going to sit around and wait for other people to do or might not do things. I mean, even the acquisition is being placed on hold because of the legal dispute, right? So we're not going to wait for these things. So we're just gonna do it ourselves. Now, when you say Twitter algorithms, I mean that encompasses so many different things. We're going to build the same algorithms that we built for Telegram for Twitter data as well, right? Basically to facilitate people driving positive or community building contributions or discussions, right, to their project on social media, in Twitter, in Telegram, whatever. So that's going to include all the, you know, the algorithms or the analytics that I just mentioned previously in the same way, right? Yeah, I mean, unless I'm very wrong about this, I don't think anything in Twitter is really open source yet. If they are open source, we would love to check them out. But if they're going to be open source or when they'll be open source is very much up in the air, I think. If I'm wrong about that, please tell me about it, because I would love to check it out. But as far as I know, they're not open source yet. Okay, next question. Did you build your own layer one out of necessity for your apps to work, or was it done by choice? I imagine it was very time consuming to build one from scratch. So why not just focus purely on apps and build on one of the big chains like Polkadot, Cosmos, etc.? Yeah, this is a great question. We do get asked this question quite a bit. So first and foremost, Taraxa is a layer 1 project. Okay, so I don't want anyone to get confused here. We are a layer 1 ecosystem. When we're building applications, what we're doing is that we're saying these are advertisements for our layer 1. Okay, so that's really the point of the applications. Now, obviously, we want to drive traction to the applications, but more than that, we want other developers to see our applications and say, hey, this is interesting. I think I can do something cool with this as well. Let me try it out, right? So that's what we want. I think it's very difficult to market something if you don't have anything to show for it, right? So that part doesn't make sense, right? I think all layer 1s, one way or another, need to build some sort of application infrastructure or demos, right? I think a lot of other people build demos. We're just going full out and building something that's actually useful and workable, and we're going to drive adoption for it and use that and say, hey, look what's possible on top of Taraxa. You too can build something interesting here. All right, so Taraxa is a layer 1 project. We built the layer 1 because we thought that there was significant room for improvement in the layer 1 technology. Even today, I wouldn't say that layer 1s out there are very mature, right? The things you mentioned, Polkadot, Cosmos, I don't think they have very high throughput. Polkadot, Cosmos, first of all, Polkadot, Cosmos, they're really hubs, right? Or they're meant to be hubs. They don't have very high throughput. They didn't really optimize for any of that. So we have lots of new technologies and features that in our layer 1 that are not present in these. We built this specifically targeting the next generation of technologies in layer 1s. So Taraxa is a layer 1 project. We built Taraxa. We built our layer 1 because it's a layer 1 project, and the applications that we're building are basically fundamentally advertisements for our layer 1. Okay, so I just want everyone to be very, very clear about that. Okay. Next question. Could Taraxa be used to make an estimation on the amount of bots on Twitter? Elon will be interested, I guess. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. So once we get done with the Telegram thing, as you've seen in my earlier presentation, one of the metrics that were very, very, a lot of the metrics that we're very interested in can be used to detect bot-like behavior, right? So, for example, if a specific user is posting very frequently about the same thing, and they're sort of just kind of or everything they're posting comes from a very limited set of text. So bots that are very, very simple basically have like a fixed dictionary of text that they would post. And those are very easy to detect because you see that what they're saying is very limited, right? I mean, just only like 20 things they ever say, right? Or 10 things or 100 things they ever say. More sophisticated bots actually use natural language processing as well. In this, there's a subfield in natural language processing called text generation that they will actually algorithmically generate text. That's a little harder to detect. We're gonna probably look into that as a secondary objective. But yeah, that's something that we can possibly also detect. I mean, the reason why there might be an intersection, there will be an intersection between bot detection and what we're building for Hype, is because we want to exclude discussions that are meaningless, that don't contribute to your community or ecosystem. So we're interested in the same thing here in terms of excluding meaningless or just spammy, spammy discussions, spammy posts. Yeah, I think once we build this, Elon Musk might be interested. It'd be kind of interesting if we can get a dialogue with them. Could you share about the milestones you and your team have achieved so far and about your upcoming plans? So that's the first part of the question. Second part is still early days for NFT, which is very potential. Do Taraxa have any plans to involving NFT? Okay, so first one, I think the biggest milestone that we've achieved so far over the past few years is really having built a very performant layer 1 from scratch, and has reached it's reached a state that's very, very stable. So we're very, very happy about that. It's non-trivial to build a new layer one from scratch. You know, some of the big, you know, big upcoming plans, we've laid that out on our 2022 roadmap. So if you haven't seen it, you go to taraxa.io/roadmap. You know, that's where all of our progress is. So you can check that out. But the two big milestones for this year is native token conversion, which means that we're going to get rid of the ERC20 and actually convert it into native tokens onto the Taraxa mainnet. And the other one is launching one of our applications, the Hype app, for example, so that, you know, we can actually start generating some traction with the application and use that as a basis to promote the entire ecosystem. Okay. Number two is still early days for NFT, lots of potential. Taraxa AMA plan to involve NFT. So, you know, we have these partners actually in Japan that that recently have really I think shifted their focus into NFTs, right? I think Unicast was one of them that they sold NFT representations of casks of these very expensive whiskey. It's probably the most expensive alcohol I've ever heard of. But they sold shares of those whiskey casks. So that's very interesting. I think they're also considering moving into things like real estate and some other areas using NFTs. I think this actually gels pretty well with, you know, our overall direction, which is we're very, very, very interested here at Taraxa because we're all about making informal data, you know, trustworthy. The larger goal, even above that, is that we're very interested in erasing the boundary between the digital and the physical world, right? So I think anything that we can do to actually make a connection between the digital and the physical world are things that we're very interested in. So to the extent that, you know, we're not going to ourselves build anything NFT related, but we do have partners who are actively building NFT related projects that connect the digital world with the physical world, which is very much part of our overall larger mission. So you know, that's something you could see later on after we launch our native token conversion, and you'll see some of these interesting projects coming onto our network and ecosystem. Okay, to your knowledge, are you the only team working on a project like Echo, or are other teams working on similar things? And once you release the app, how realistic is that some people just take the code, make slight adjustments here and there, and release it with a different name? All right, so this is a great question, right? So first of all, I'm not really aware of anyone else doing anything remotely close to this, so that's good. Second of all, we're working in an open source environment, right? So basically every single project out there today, you can crypto project. I mean, if they're a real crypto project, they're open source, right? If they're closed source, then, you know, very, very shady. But, you know, almost all crypto projects are open source. You could say that for every single one of them. I mean, anyone can just copy their code and do whatever, right? So this goes back to this idea of like, why is it a good idea to grow organically your own ecosystem of use cases that are very unique, right? So when you do that, you actually build up a very large network effect in this ecosystem, right? You actually build up a very large network in this ecosystem. It makes it very expensive or unattractive for people to leave it and just copy something. A quick example would be just like, I mean, why doesn't someone just fork Uniswap and just copy them, right? And releasing it in a different name, right? Well, people have done that thousands, tens of thousands of times, right? But the vast majority, but why is Uniswap still around? And why isn't it dead already, right? Because it has a lot of value locked into it. It has a lot of tokens, it has a lot of whatever other things locked into it. And also in many ways, right, Uniswap has been a pretty consistent leader in its innovations, right? So it's not about just copying the code. It's about how big of a community and network effect you have built up in your ecosystem, and about how quickly you can innovate and adapt, right? So that's what it takes, right? Copying the code is, I mean, it's not meaningful, right? Unless the project you're copying from has no ecosystem and nothing, no network effect, then yeah, copying the code that the only thing they have is the code, right? So, but obviously the goal is that you build organically, you build up an ecosystem, and you have some barriers to entry, and then you have a networking effect, right? So these are the things that makes it very hard for people to leave, and they don't, I mean, and very unattractive for them to leave, right? So that's really what you want, and this is another reason why I think, as a layer one, if you're just sitting around copying what other people are doing, that's ultimately going to be a loser, right? I mean, that's a losing strategy if you're just copying what other people are doing. Everyone's trying to copy what Ethereum is doing. Everyone, I mean, every day you see lots of posts online saying Ethereum is dead, it's so slow, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's still the most used layer one protocol, and it has the most use cases, right? All, ICO started on Ethereum, right? You have DeFi on Ethereum, you have NFTs on Ethereum. Ethereum is the biggest ecosystem. And that's because these things grew organically on Ethereum, and they have a built-in network effect, and people want to stay on it despite the fact that it's super slow and expensive, right? So it's really not about the code. The code is interesting. It's one piece of the puzzle, but it's not, it's not the determining piece of puzzle when it comes to whether or not you're able to build a sustainable ecosystem. Right? Okay. Okay, so I think I've already explained the marketing part of it. Let's see. What test data do you feed Taraxa Echo, Discord, Telegram groups, Twitter? So right now we're feeding a Telegram data. Later on, I think we'll try some Twitter data, but we're gonna get Telegram data complete, right? And then we're gonna go check out Twitter data. The reason why we started off with Telegram is that, well, of course, when you think about crypto, you think about Telegram, right? I mean, it's one of the largest social media platforms when it comes to crypto discussions and crypto communities. But it's also a notoriously difficult platform to navigate because there's so much spamming there and so many scams and so many everything, right? And so, I think this Hype platform is really going to be great as a layer on top of to use it as a tool to effectively make use of this great social media, right? What's the difference with Luna? I think I already explained that. There's nothing. I mean, I already explained this. Taraxa is nothing like Luna. One's a stable coin, we're layer one. Do you see any other projects or competitors for Echo? I don't see anyone doing anything even remotely similar to Echo. I mean, let's take a step back here. Like, why did we decide to build Echo in the first place, right? So we are, as ourselves, right, as a project, we've had a, we've had a lot of problems, I think, doing marketing, right? Because like I said before, the vast majority of money you spend on marketing is just wasted. And you don't really have an effective way to track it. The tracking is very manual. The rewarding process is very manual. It just costs so much time and effort. At the end of the day, you basically said, forget it, you just start giving money out and you don't care, right? So that's not an effective way to market anything. And we searched very hard for effective tools that can actually help us to quantify the impact of marketing campaigns. And they're in a way that we wanted, right? Especially for the crypto ecosystems. There was nothing even close to that. I mean, if there were something like that, we would have used it already and we would not have created Echo, right? Why replicate something that already works? But there was just nothing even close to it. And we asked around a lot of other projects. They don't know of anything even close to it. And they also have this problem. So that's why we did it, because it was a real pain point, right? And no one's really addressing it effectively. For being easy to stake, do you have plans to develop your own browser extension? So you can just use well, okay, I think I see what you mean. The MetaMask browser extension currently functions as a wallet, but obviously it doesn't have staking built in. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be a high priority for us to develop a browser extension. just because you can use MetaMask to do it, not to stake, but you can use it as a wallet and as a Web3 connector. We built Taraxa to be backwards compatible with Ethereum's RPC layer. So that means that we can make use of all of Ethereum's toolchain, right? So things like MetaMask, Remix, Truffle, all these great things that we don't have to rebuild. Our absolute top priority right now is really to build the application. Now, I think the interface for staking on our community site could definitely be a little bit better. I think what you might be looking for, and I'm guessing here, right? What you might be looking for might be auto delegation feature in which you just like click a button and it says, oh, I'm just gonna automatically delegate your stake to one of the algorithmically chosen nodes. Now, we thought about doing that. We didn't really like it because it, as a staker, you really need to do a little bit of homework and make that decision explicitly which node you want to delegate to, because that node could be underperforming, it could be run by someone you don't know or you don't trust or whatever, right? So we want this to be an explicit decision on the part of stakers. Now, we could create something automated, and later down the road, I think we could do that, and I think that would make staking really and delegation really easy. I think the complexity doesn't come from the fact that there isn't a in-browser one-click button, right, to do it. The complexity comes from the fact that you need to actually physically go in and choose delegation and staking. And right now, the staking and delegation is a little complex because it's a two-part process. Later on, we're going to merge it into a single-part process after the native token conversion. So it's going to be much simpler. So I do agree that there is a lot of improvement that we can do on the user experience for staking and delegation, and that's definitely on the roadmap. Although I disagree that a browser extension is the way to solve that, because that's not where the complexity is. Can't really comment on price. Can't comment on listings. Can you survive through bear market? Do you have enough funds for the next few years? Yeah, we have enough funds to last a few more years. So of course, we're all under the pressure because we don't have infinite funds. Obviously, nobody has infinite funds. So the entire team needs to make sure that our applications and our ecosystem performs. Are there any preparations to support Twitter to get rid of bots? I think I already mentioned that, our Hype application as part of it will need to identify useless posts, right? So most useless posts are made by bots. So we do want to filter them out. Yeah. Let's see if I missed anything here. I don't think I missed anything. All right. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Let's see if there's any Q&A. Okay, so I guess that's it. I think yeah, I saw a comment here in chat saying need to get these images. I assume you mean the images in these stacks. We can actually yeah, why don't we do this? I mean, we can actually turn parts of the stack into an update article on Medium, and we'll post it, and I'll have all the images and all the context. Yeah, so you can probably get it there. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning into our AMA, and thanks everyone who asked questions, and obviously continuing a big thanks to everyone who has staked and delegated into our ecosystem. Thank you very much.